Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everyone. Today we are having the first of our new education series where we are trying to discuss a few things about education in general, and then more specifically things to do with the Singapore education system. In particular, I think there are a few things that we have been asked. I think parents also want to know how do you navigate this current system about kids being overly stressed up, and then there are some policies by the government about removing mid-year exams, and then de-emphasizing academic achievement and all that. So I think we want to explore a bit more on this over the next few months. Also things like, students sometimes ask, why do we study chemistry? Why do we study maths? We're never going to use this in life. So all these are topics yang,
I used to ask that question.
Itulah. So we want to give some answers to this, some things for parents to think about. And also maybe some things about decisions to make, like what stream to go to, whether to engage students in tuition or not. So a few things I think inshallah we'll be covering over the next few months. But when I was thinking about the various topics of education, I think the idea is that we are Muslims. Of course, no idea. Memanglah kita Muslims. And as Muslims, there's the idea that Islam should inform every aspect of our lives. And there's a great body of scholarship in Islam, and many of our scholars have talked about knowledge and education. And I think one of the more prominent ones is Imam Al-Ghazali, who has also written a book, the Book of Knowledge. So I was thinking we want to answer these questions about the current modern day system, about Singapore system, and navigate ourselves, our children, and even teachers also might benefit from this. But at the same time, we need to ground this in some kind of Islamic knowledge. So I was thinking about it, and I remembered that my friend Hasanul here, who was from NUS with me last time, he did some research in Imam Al-Ghazali, and I came across his thesis a few years ago and I read through it. Thought it was quite interesting. Your thesis is titled apa?
The original title was the concept of academic excellence in the writings of
the concept
educational writing of Imam Al-Ghazali. And then after that, because it was re-articulated and published as a book, then it is called Al-Ghazali and Academic Excellence.
Oh, okay. I see. So you did a degree in engineering, kan? If I'm not wrong.
Yeah, degree in engineering.
Then what made you want to go and do your masters in Islamic sciences and specifically Imam Al-Ghazali?
That's an interesting question. Actually, the main intention of me going to bioengineering was
bioengineering lagi.
Yeah, was so that I can go into graduate medical school. Actually,
that was medical school.
Yeah, graduate medical school.
Oh, I see.
That was the pathway that I planned for myself. But God is the highest planner, kan? Inshallah. So as I went through my journey, then I realized that what the fardu kifayah at that moment is not merely just doctors of the body, but actually doctor of the soul.
I see. So helping people improve their souls,
revive their souls.
Yes. So that was what I had in mind, and I think what as a society, as a community, the fundamental problem that I understood it from my teacher, Professor Hakim Alatas, was was the problem of knowledge, they call it, or rather the corruption of knowledge.
Corruption.
So this led you to want to pursue this.
Yes.
Like banyak imam. There's so many imams, right?
Yeah.
But why you choose specifically Imam Al-Ghazali?
Imam Al-Ghazali is a very interesting figure. In some works, he's considered to be a mujaddid, reviver of Islamic tradition. In fact, his most celebrated work, or some people who call it the magnum opus of many of the works that he's written, is called Ihya Ulumuddin, the revival of religious sciences. It's a very interesting figure. Because his educational reforms can be felt even today, and if you're talking about specifically the Malay world, his influence is very pervasive.
Even in this part of the world,
yes,
Southeast Asia?
Especially in this part of the world, because there are many Malay translations of his work that actually been done important scholars. Yeah.
So I think Imam Al-Ghazali is a mujaddid, is a reviver. I think he's also known as the proof of Islam.
Yes, yes.
He had a profound, he had a profound impact on Islam, and in fact I think also on Christianity and how it developed later on in the West lah. So I think there's a lot of value in the books that he has written, especially in his Ihya Ulumuddin 40-book series, where one of which is the Book of Knowledge lah. So I'm curious if you said just now that the Malay world, the Southeast Asia, Indonesia, Malaysia have adopted his works.
Yes.
And we would imagine that the manifestation of his works might be seen in the education system that they have incorporated it into, like in the madrasas. Would you say that is the case?
I would say to some extent, yes. And my intention was to highlight his works again.
Okay.
Right, so that it can be rearticulated and possibly applied.
Okay.
Because it's part of our Malay cultural or intellectual tradition, in fact.
Okay.
So not only that also, because if you are actually looking at the Singapore education system, we are at the crossroads between what we call the Western educational philosophy,
Okay.
and also the Chinese educational philosophy.
Yeah, actually we are borrowing from both the Western and the Chinese.
Correct, it's a hybrid lah of both. So I would want to add into perhaps maybe if you look at the Malay intellectual tradition, we can solve certain things.
Okay.
Yeah.
So kira-kira you are macam reviver jugalah of this sciences.
I won't say like I'm just someone who is trying to do these type of things.
Okay,
my contribution.
So I think what can be helpful for people to understand is you spoke about the concept of academic excellence from the lens of Imam Al-Ghazali, not lens from the writings of Imam Al-Ghazali. So you want to share a bit what is his idea of academic excellence that Muslims can learn from?
Of course, that is the crux of my research, my master's thesis, eventually articulated into a book. When we want to discuss academic excellence, firstly we must try to at least break it up into two terms lah. We have two terms, academic and excellence.
Okay.
In Arabic we can call it sifah mausuf lah kan. One is
dah masuk Arab pula.
Yeah. So one gives one explains the attributes of the object kan.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Okay, let people is adjective and noun.
yes. Correct, that's true. So the adjective is academic kan. So what exactly is academic? Then if you actually look into the books of Imam Al-Ghazali, not just the Ihya Ulumuddin, many other books lah, Rawdah Al-Talibin, Ma'arijul Quds, and many other books, you realize that you need to go into the terms that he actually used. So academic, of course, we are referring to ilmiyah kan. The Arabic term ilm comes into play. So
Maybe dah bangun.
You can pay first. Alright.
Continue?
Yeah.
So
continue. This happens.
Alright. So when we talk about ilm, then we need to understand what exactly do we mean by ilm. What exactly does Imam Al-Ghazali mean by ilm? So what is ilm? In the English language we refer to knowledge, but it's not very clear. But according to Imam Al-Ghazali, he give the meaning of seeing things as they really are.
Okay. So that is his understanding of what knowledge is, seeing things as they really are.
They really are. And then if we go deeper into it, then it is actually referring to the representation of truth and reality in the mirror of the soul.
Okay.
So he used the parable of the mirror. So if you have a mirror, now going into physics already, which you are an expert of kan. So we have a mirror, then you have the object. The object referring to truth and reality.
Okay.
So when you have the mirror and the object, then the mirror would produce an image.
Okay.
Right? Within the mirror, we say within the mirror lah kan.
So virtual image lah.
Yes. So the correspondence between the image and the object is what we call knowledge.
Okay.
So the knowledge is referring to the correspondence of what you understand in your soul or in your consciousness. When it corresponds to truth and reality, that is what we call knowing something.
Okay. So in other words, that knowing is the matching, the extent to which they match.
Yes.
Right?
So knowing something is must at the end of the day refer to reality.
Okay.
So if it's referring to falsity and all that, we don't call that knowledge lah. That is one aspect of it. So we have academic, and then academic also we are referring to teaching and learning as an activity. So that's why we are referring to the terms ta'allum and ta'lim. So this if we refer back to the parable of the mirror, you have the mirror, right? However, if the mirror is placed in a dark room, there can be no reflection. So you need light.
Okay.
So we are referring to the parable of light, in fact.
Okay.
So that is referring to ta'lim.
Teaching and learning.
Teaching and learning. Okay. So without light, there can be no reflection, no mental construction of something.
Wow.
I see.
Isn't it? So the light, when you say ta'lim, there are two sources. One is of course the teacher, right? Who is the guide, and ultimately the second one referring to Allah Ta'ala as the teacher. And that's why in the Holy Quran Allah Ta'ala mentioned allamal insana ma lam ya'lam. Right?
You have taught man what he does know.
Yes. So at the end of the day, really, it is God that teaches. So the light is represents Allah Ta'ala as the teacher of men.
So this is the kind of thing that we want, the kind of thinking that we want parents and students to have.
Yes.
The idea of how you see knowledge.
Yeah.
It's not as a means to macam do well in the exam, that kind of thing lah. So you see knowledge in this way, you commit yourself towards the mastery of this kind of knowledge, and that would eventually lead you to doing well in the exam. Is it something like that?
I wouldn't say that because at the end of the day, the intention is not just to pass exam.
Yes.
We can consider exam as one level of it, but ultimately, when we say academic in terms of ilm, ta'lim and ta'allum, it must ultimately refer to the understanding of the realities of things. And also the understanding of your purpose in existence. Because many people they can be successful academically, quote unquote, right? They can be scoring A's and all that, and then after that they realize, whether they realize it or not, they don't have any inkling as to their existential purpose, their purpose of existence. Why are they doing this and all that?
That's quite a rampant problem, I think.
Yes, in fact, I was involved in dialogue with a particular minister in regard to this, and he also mentioned that that Singaporean students, some of them, they are very successful. They talk about PISA, teams and whatsoever. They are very successful, but when they reach a certain level, then they realize that there is a crisis of meaning. Yeah. And when we talk about ilm, it must involve meaningful engagement.
Okay.
Like you mentioned, why you study chemistry and all that, right? That somehow the academic in the modern sense, they don't include these things.
Okay.
So they only focus on the technicalities of it, but they lost the, I would say, the epistemological and the civilizational appreciation of the subject matter. So they are unable to navigate.
But how do you think we can incorporate these values to our, especially Muslim students, like to appreciate better, like macam I think macam because the culture is there kan, macam okay kita belajar untuk exam, untuk dapat A, so like is it possible to like change?
Here in the context of this kind of culture and environment that we have, what can be done basically?
Actually, what can be done is we need to revive back what we have forgotten, because this was actually taught already to us.
Okay.
We in traditional institutions, right? We call it the mabadi asyara, the principles of knowledge that should be taught before the subject matter itself.
Okay.
So we need to talk about the history of the subject. We need to talk about why you are actually learning subject, how is actually purposefully understood vis-a-vis other sciences. These are the things that you know that should be taught. So that's why there's mabadi asyara for fiqh, mabadi asyara for kalam. Then there should be mabadi asyara for chemistry, for mathematics. But these things they are not taught. So
I mean, it's usually in the interest of time or.
Yes, of course. At the end of the day, I mean, Professor Alatas also mentioned language is ontology, they call it. He mentioned in his book Prolegomena to the Metaphysics of Islam. Language is ontology, which means language shapes your reality. Yeah? In the sense that we can understand it, kan. So when we say academic, unfortunately, we understand it in the secular Western sense. Okay, where when we say academic, if you actually look into the English dictionary, kan, it's referring to something that is theoretical in nature.
Okay.
And to some extent also, when we say this is a purely academic method, that means it has no relation to reality.
No practical relevance.
No practical relevance, kan? So we can see the consequences of that.
Okay.
When we actually approach a subject matter in this kind of manner, then the meaningfulness becomes difficult to achieve.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So the meaning is diminished in that sense.
Yes, of course.
They won't see so much. Like the meaning of the content is for the purposes of the exam rather than seeing these other aspects of knowledge. So that's how you would define academic. How would Al-Ghazali define excellence?
Oh, that's a good question. I was going into that.
Okay.
So when we talk about excellence, then we say language is ontology, kan? So we need to look into the terms that Al-Ghazali used to signify what excellence is. And I found that there are basically three related terms lah.
Okay.
The first term is fadilah.
Okay.
Or what we call virtue. Kan? So in other words, if you are talking about excellence, you cannot just be successful, in the exam sense, kan? Or in the career sense, or in the material sense. Ultimately, it must be reflected in your adab, in your akhlaq.
So there's no excellence without an excellence in virtue.
Yes.
In that sense. Okay.
So when we talk about virtue, of course, if you want to go into the details of it, kan, Al-Ghazali he explained three philosophic virtues lah. He actually took it from Aristotle, but he tried to reinterpret it in the worldview of Islam.
Okay.
So the first virtue is courage, syaja'ah. Okay. The second is ifah, or what we call temperance. And the third one is hikmah, which is wisdom. And all this is actually, it's not just just plucked out of thin air, kan? Because I think if you actually try to understand how modern education work, it's as if they are plucking these values out of thin air and then trying to fit into a certain system. But for Al-Ghazali, these three virtues is actually related to the reality of the human psychology. Because why human psychology? If you actually understand the psychology of the human soul, there are three faculties, or we call quwwah, in the human soul. The first being your faculty of anger.
Okay.
And what is the faculty of anger? It
the
is
emotional faculty lah, in that sense.
I won't say it's a emotional per se, but it's more of a response to something that you find threatening to you.
Okay.
So you will feel angry.
Okay.
Right? When you are responding to something that is painful. Yeah. And if it is actually managed and disciplined properly, it will produce what we call courage.
Okay.
Because if you have excess of anger, then you have rashness, and you will feel you will respond in a rash manner and so on, kan? But if you cannot have too little also, because that will be cowardice. So the middle is what we call courage.
So dia ada the right amount and the right.
Yes, correct. The appropriate, when it is put in its proper place, Right?
Can be
That's what we call
channeled
syaja'ah or courage. Okay.
So basically, it's Imam Al-Ghazali. Okay, I try to summarize sikit.
Okay.
So he has identified fadilah as virtues,
Yes.
and amongst that there are a few kinds of virtues that he has categorized them in. One of the virtues is anger. Okay, not say anger lah. One of the virtues is courage.
Yeah.
And so courage is the median. Can I
Yes.
say median?
Mean.
Between two extremes,
Yes.
or mean lah. Okay, fine. Tahu tak beza dia apa?
Tahu lah.
Apa ketawa? Okay, so the median or the mean between two extremes.
Yeah.
Tu kira kan outliers lah.
Yes, correct. Statistically
Outliers.
speaking.
So on one side is the absence of courage is cowardliness, but the abundance of courage is foolhardiness or rashness. You know what you said?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So this is one dimension,
Yes.
and it's something that we have to be mindful about where we stand in
Correct.
this thing, and we want to try to strive for that ideal balanced medium.
Correct, and that's what we call excellence. In one aspect. So
Okay.
then we have temperance or effah. So that is when we are talking about from the human psychology perspective, we are actually referring to our human response to something that is pleasant.
Okay.
That's why we call it the faculty of desire, the shahwah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So and of course the shahwah need to be managed. So excellence in that would produce effah, temperance, which is the mean or the
Again,
median
between two extremes.
of two extremes. One the extreme of excess, then you have gluttony and so on, kan?
Okay, then you seek pleasure through all these vices, gluttony.
Correct. That's why called vices, yeah.
So kira kan terlampau ikut nafsu lah.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
And then
So
on the other
and then the absence of it, then you are just you are apathetic towards
Okay.
things, kan?
Apathetic.
Apathetic. That means
Apathetic,
you
meaning
don't.
absence of desire.
Oh, as in example?
Like for
Macam tu?
instance, you need to desire to do good, isn't it?
Oh,
Right?
okay.
Because if you put desire in its proper place, then you desire good things for yourself and good things for others. But if you have an absence of that altogether, then you're just apathetic. You don't feel
Okay, then
anything.
the complete absence of desire to do anything.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking that let's say seeking nafs or seeking pleasure is on one extreme. The other extreme could be macam overly. Macam some monks they have this kind of completely denounce the world and macam
It's
don't get
zuhud,
married.
zuhud.
Macam puasa hari that kind. So I think
That is another manifestation of
Oh,
that
okay,
as
okay,
well.
okay. So that's-
Yeah, you're correct about that. So you must put desire in its proper place. So
that one also you have to achieve the balance.
yes, the balance of it.
Okay, so
We
that's-
call excellence again. When you produce effah or temperance.
Okay, so courage, temperance, and another one was hikmah, is it?
Yeah, hikmah is basically because when you want to manage these two, faculty of anger and faculty of desire, you need your akal, your intellect.
Okay.
So when your akal, your intellectual capabilities, you are able to put in its proper place, that will produce wisdom or hikmah.
Okay. And this is again a mean between two extremes.
Correct.
So you want to have wisdom which is in between. I imagine on one end of the scale is stupidity.
Yes, of course.
Oh, really?
The absence of it. Yeah, you're correct about that.
Yalah.
Stupidity, yeah.
On one, then on the other end is too smart.
The too smart, what we mean is
Arrogance.
no, cunning, shrewdness.
Oh.
Yeah.
That means it means dah pandai gila, but then you're using your intelligence.
For the wrong purposes.
I see.
I see, yeah.
Danger tu.
Itu lah
Yes.
danger.
Yeah, and unfortunately, these things in the modern say not discussed. So you want to educate or train someone to be very very smart, but that there is no moral accountability for it. Kan, you are, and that's why we have a lot of crisis in this world today, economic crisis, environmental crisis, because these things are not being
So
discussed.
at the root of it, they don't address these, I would say, fundamental virtues.
Yes.
And as a consequence, we see what we see today lah.
Yeah.
That's one of the consequences of that.
Yes, that is correct. So that is one form of excellence. Then I also discuss lah other terms lah that actually refer to excellence. Second term, of course, that is actually related to wisdom. Wisdom itself is also an excellence, because at the end of the day, when we talk about the human being, in summation, what exactly is the human being? The human being is, as defined by scholars, particularly also Imam Al-Ghazali, is rational, logical animal. Basically, what differentiate man from all other animal species is the fact that he has an intellect, right?
He's the rational animal in a sense.
Yes, I won't say rational animal lah, because rational again, it's difficult in the English language, because you are referring to ratio, and then after that there's also another aspect called intellectus. That is the difficulty of language again. So that is the reason why Al-Atas mentioned, language ontology. So with regard to that, we need to educate ourselves, or rather the purpose of education is to acquire wisdom, actually. Wisdom as the knowledge of the proper places of things. And when you know where things need to be placed, I give you a simple example lah, kan. If a room is dark, kan, you would maybe place, you don't know where the cup is supposed to be placed, then maybe you accidentally place it, or rather purposely also sometimes you place it on the floor, and then it will cause what we call chaos, kan. You might trip on it, trip over it, and so on. So wisdom is akin to the light, right? That's why we say light of wisdom, kan. We use the term the light of wisdom. So we will know the place, all the proper places of things, and then the action that proceeds from this knowledge is what we call adab. Adab is the act of putting things in a proper place.
Okay, I see.
So so in other words, excellence refer to wisdom in that sense. And then there's also another third term when we want to talk about excellence is ihsan.
Okay.
And of course in ihsan we are actually referring ultimately to the hadith of the Prophet SAW, right? Referring to worshipping Allah Ta'ala as though you can see him, and if you cannot see him, you must bear in mind that he sees you.
He sees you. Okay.
So